Ladies, gentlemen, and haradrim of all ages, it's been quite the strange few days when it comes to news in the Diablo community, and so of course, as usual, we're going to round it all up and talk about what's been going on. The good, the bad, the very, very concerning, all of it. We'll start off, of course, with the official stuff right from Blizzard themselves, and tweets from the developers, standard stuff, but then we also have an important discussion to have surrounding a recent survey sent out by Blizzard. Also, there's a new bug that could have some significant benefit to people looking to farm Helltide, and then there's something that I want to talk about along with the season journey too. Starting off then, let's get these sort of bookkeeping out of the way here. Tomorrow there will be a Campfire chat stream with the developers. This was announced just earlier this week, so they have moved very quickly on it from when the concept was brought up to us. And we also have confirmation from Adam Fletcher that this event will actually have a full demo of someone taking on the Abattoir of Zir in front of us, so we will finally get to fully see proper gameplay of it, which is extremely helpful for our own preparations as players. Anything that you're doing ahead of time to make it easier. Well, the more info that you have, the more you will know how to proceed. This will of course be a pretty big deal to see, and they'll also be talking more about the upcoming patch that includes the Abattoir, as well as the Midwinter Blight event that will be coming a week later. As usual, after that stream ends, I'll be talking about it here, so tune in if you are interested. Past that, we have one tweet of note from Rod Ferguson. A player mentions enjoying the game on the Steam Deck, but asks if there will be an offline mode added to the game so that it properly functions on things like airplanes. And Rod replies saying there are no plans for this right now. So to people that have asked about an offline mode, myself included, and brought it up in the past, it has happened quite a bit. People really do want this. Here is your answer, then, at least at the current moment, that there are no plans for it, no discussions about it, and given that there is an expansion in the works for late next year, it's already being made, I'd say if a feature that big is not planned currently, we are unlikely to see it for a very long while, so don't get your hopes up on this coming anytime soon. After that, a couple of more smaller things. One of them is a new bug in Helltide that could help out anyone searching for a specific legendary aspect. When the Helltide is in the Helltide region specifically, there is this world boss arena down at the bottom in the bottom left corner of the Helltide area. In this little arena, a couple of Helltide chests will spawn, but for whatever reason, if you leave the area and re-enter, it will actually respawn them. This doesn't happen anywhere else in Helltide. Normally it saves whether or not you have opened a chest so you can't double dip by just walking out and back in, but for whatever reason, this specific area is a bit busted. You can open the chest, walk out and back in, and a new chest will spawn. Sometimes it will even be a different item type, but you can just keep going out and back in over and over. So let's say that you want something like a specific legendary ring aspect. Well, now you can open infinite ring chests if Helltide in this is just in this area by just going out and back in and spending all of your cinders to open chests that you've already opened. Past that, just a minor gripe which might seem a bit silly in comparison to what is to come, but I just want to talk about the reward for finishing the season journey. This right here, it is a potent blood cache. Every step of the way through the season journey, you get cool things, new legendary aspects, new codex entries of powers that normally wouldn't be in the codex, caches full of goodies, even scrolls of amnesia, which are very useful to have, and you think logically they would make these rewards scale up to be more and more interesting, useful, and just exciting to receive as you get further into the season journey. But then we get to the final chapter of the season journey, for which the reward is this potent blood cache, and this simply gives you 1,000 potent blood, nothing else, and well, it's so extremely out of touch. In order to get to the end of the season journey like this, you almost definitely are going to be level 100, possibly even on multiple characters, and without a doubt, unless you've been completely ignoring Blood Harvest, you will have thousands and thousands and thousands of potent blood already in your inventory. Even after maxing out all of your vampiric powers, you'll still have this just sort of left over. I have done it on 3 characters now, and I still have a buttload of potent blood. And just the idea that the reward for doing this deep into the season is 1,000 potent blood is just an absolute joke to me. And it feels like whoever made that decision didn't really understand the gameplay loop the season was going to have in the first place. I think the game has made leaps and bounds to get better this season. Don't get me wrong, it is so much better. But again, this right here is indicative of a greater problem that does need solving within the development loop for the game, which is a lack of communication between different teams within the development process. And it's important that we talk about this so they can recognize it, see it, and fix it, because to me, the person who decided the reward for finishing the season journey didn't properly understand the value of potent blood, or how the currency would likely be irrelevant for anyone that would reach this stage of season progression, which just means that there are some conversations that should have happened in the team that did not. And no, it doesn't cause a massive issue, but the reward for finishing the season journey should be monumental. It should feel really good, it should be cool, it shouldn't be something that you probably won't even use. Hell, with the way the game currently works, I think they should just give you a free, random, uber unique when you finish the season journey. You can only do it once per account, there is just no way to cheese this in the first place, and one uber unique per account is not a big deal compared to Duriel farm, which is now a thing, so why not make it something properly exciting for actually completing these objectives, right? Then we come to our big topic of the day. Starting a couple of weeks ago, Blizzard theoretically started sparsely sending out surveys to players. Not many players got them, and when you got the survey before starting, you had to agree to a non-disclosure agreement prohibiting you from talking about the survey, saying that you took part in the survey, or sharing any of its contents with anyone else. I do have to say, for legal reasons, that I did not receive this survey, so I didn't sign any of that stuff. And yes, it is a bit unusual to send out a survey like this with an NDA on it, but it's not completely unheard of. But it makes a lot of sense once you know what is in it. The thing is, it is worth mentioning, we don't know for certain that this is real. There are only a handful of screenshots, but they do line up formatting-wise with previous surveys the Diablo team has sent out before, so it is entirely believable. And honestly, while some of the stuff that will come up on this survey is a big problem, it's not something completely out of the realm of possibility for Blizzard. The reason I say this is because this is something of a big discussion coming up in the community, and I just want everyone here to be fully aware that while there's definitely decent reason to believe that this survey is real, there is no way to confirm that at this point. So just keep that in the back of your head. That said, if it wasn't real, Blizzard would probably have said something about that by now with all the drama that's been coming up with it, and so let's just dive into the screenshots themselves. Right at the top here, we have pricing options, and essentially the idea here is that each of these is just a different package of how the expansion could be sold. Different levels of varying bonus features, some including base game, but not all, some with different bonus exclusive bits, others being given higher game currency, and for all intents and purposes, this is just Blizzard trying to work out how much players value each of these different things, these different concepts, and essentially trying to work out what is the best way for them to get money out of us, but also giving us something that we think is valuable in return, at least in theory. The pricing options are $70, $50, $80, and $100, and right off the bat I have a pretty big issue with that, because why is one of these options more expensive than the goddamn game itself? But we have some bigger issues to talk about in this, so I won't let myself get too unhinged about it quite yet. Then we have hero skins, simply being one full cosmetic armor set with variations for each of the classes. Then there is a mount with different variations of the idea as well, one just being a standard mount, one being just a mount armor even, and one specifically being a unique mount that would actually evolve in some way as you complete certain objectives or achievements, which is an interesting concept. I can find that cool. Then we have in-game currency being rewarded, with the options being 2,000, 1,000, or 3,000 coming to you instantly on purchase. Then another section which is platinum that you would get once per season for a year, so every 3 months you would again get 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000 platinum. Then they have the concept of wing cosmetics coming into the game, which I'm definitely down for. I'd love me some good wings. And then we start getting into some slightly more worrying territory, but we're still not quite yet at the problems. We have premium battle passes being included in the expansion as well, with one option being 4 seasons of the accelerated battle pass, the really expensive one just being one premium battle pass for a single season, and the other being the premium for all 4 seasons. Then we have early access. This was the thing for the base game. Higher price editions of the game got a few days of early access before launch, and it looks like they are considering that for the expansion as well, up to 4 days before launch. Then we have an interesting one, which is companions. This is essentially the concept of pets, and the idea that would just be a little dude that follows you around picking up the gold that drops from enemies so you don't have to do that, and potentially even letting you access your stash while walking around in the overworld, which is quite interesting. Then the options for this are simply 1 season before launch, and so this seems mostly like a pre-order bonus to benefit players before the expansion even happens, and if it is something that you need to pay for, that would be a touch irritating, as I would consider the 2 things that this offers you being quality of life, and paid quality of life is not ideal, but again, it gets even worse than this, so relatively speaking, I can't blow my top quite yet. After that, then we have town portal skins, nothing really new, purely cosmetic, not a big deal. Then here comes the big stuff, the real big stuff that they left all the way until the bottom of the survey. Early access to a functional item. This is a problem right here in theory, and they knew that when they wrote it down because they wrote it the way they did. The idea being they are talking about what if they simply gave people who bought these editions of the expansion a unique item or a legendary aspect for a period of time that other players would not have access to. And that, for all intents and purposes, is simply pay to win, and the biggest reason for that is because they want to use these as an incentive for people to buy these versions of the expansion, and if they want that idea to work, they will need to make the items strong, and so they will make them strong, and the people who will have them early will just be stronger than everyone else until everyone has access. That is pay to win, even if it is for a limited time, and that is a problem. The main thing with this is, though, from my understanding of the survey as a whole, they are probably referring to the concept of the 4-day early access period for the expansion as a whole. If the expansion itself has new uniques and legendary aspects, and you have access to the expansion 4 days early, you will in theory have access to these new items 4 days early. And in that world, I can at least understand where it's coming from. I just think this in itself outlines a major issue with tying early access to pricing on an expansion. Not even the base game itself, an expansion. That is the issue here, and that's really strange to me. And then there is the old, big, massive one that there is no way to defend: paid stash tabs. Yeah, remember how since launch, one of the major concerns of every single player has been how the stash is just sort of garbage. It's too small, there's too much gear that we need to save and sort through. It's a massive pain, and time investment and inventory management should not be as much of our gameplay as it has been. It's all stuff that we've been saying for months, and yes, it is better now than it was before. There's no doubt about that. We have an extra tab, we have the filters and the sorting systems that help a little bit. The gems go into your currency menu now, which is better for sure. But the biggest issue still is raw space. And the fun part of this is we were told a while back that the reason the stash space could not be bumped up past 5 pages is because every time you see another player in your game, it will load their entire stash into your memory. It would cause a ton of performance issues, and everyone was like, well, that's a really dumb way to do things, but I believe you. It definitely shouldn't do that, but at least we understand the issue now. And so what the hell is this? Why are they selling stash tabs if having more stash tabs would break the game? Unless they're saying that they know how to fix this by the time the expansion happens. But then what happens? Why are they making us pay for it even if they fix this? They're not going to give us 5 bonus free stash tabs if they're only going to be offering us 1 or 2 as paid content in the expansion, so I just don't think that we are going to be getting more free stash tab upgrades if this is going to be a thing, which is absolutely crazy to me given everything we've talked about with stash tabs for the last couple of minutes. The developers have been making a load of progress with this game recently over the past month and a bit, and this survey is really making me question the bit of hope that I've gained for it. The only way that I can see this making sense to them is that they mentioned recently they want to make it so when you extract an aspect from a legendary item, it will go into your codex rather than taking up inventory space. And so from that, they expect stashes to no longer be used to hold random aspects, but instead just gear that you want to imprint on or uniques or things like that. And in the world where that is the case, 5 pages of stash would be quite fair, I think. But even then, the idea of selling extra stash space just feels so wrong to me given the history of this game with stash space up to this point. I just cannot get past that. I can understand the possible chain of events that would lead them to do it, but I absolutely will not agree with it. Then finally, it's just the concept of whether or not the base game is included, then that's it. That's the survey, and it brings up some big questions. Hopefully they purposely went overboard on this survey, wanting to see how vehemently against some of the crazier things players would be, and hopefully this isn't an indication that every one of these things will be happening. From a $100 cost on the expansion, which is nuts, to early access to certain legendaries and uniques, which is extremely questionable, especially with limited context, to literally paying for stash space, quality of life, and convenience. I hope that this isn't indicative of what is to come for us, because if it is a problem. But once again, just to really cover our bases here, there is no way to fully confirm whether or not this is real, but it would be full-on copium to say that it's unlikely given, well, Blizzard. The developers can be doing all they can to make the game better, and I believe that they are at the moment, but at the end of the day, it's not really up to them to decide things like the price, the pre-order bonuses, the different editions. They just have to work with what they're told to do in that manner. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but it is quite concerning to say the least. And that just about does it really. Just a lot of things to discuss today, some of them official, some of them just parts of the game that have either only recently come up or needed a deeper talk. Then of course, the big discussion of the community right now, this survey about the expansion coming next year and what some of these just god-awful options could potentially mean for us. Hopefully Blizzard sees all of the community response to this. I mean, they sent a survey out looking for feedback, and I can't help but feel like they're getting a lot more feedback than they were intending, but that is good for them to have, so they better put it to good use. That's all I'm saying. Let me know your own thoughts on all of this down below in the comments, of course, and I will be back tomorrow to round up everything that we see in the Campfire chat stream for those who want to stay in the know. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.